Right now on the Daily Debrief.
If I could personally rip his face off, I would.
The mother of 5 murdered children shares her thoughts on a possible death sentence for the father convicted. Also, a mixed and complicated end to the trial of a former NFL player accused of sex crimes. We break it all down. And O.J. Simpson reflects on the 25th anniversary of the deaths of his wife and her friend. Plus, reaction to the conviction of a California man and the murders of an entire family. The Daily Debrief recaps the day in court. It's Tuesday, June 11th. Welcome to the Debrief, everybody. Great to be with you. Linda Kenny Bodden here in studio. Gene Rossi is joining us remotely. It's going to be a great discussion. A verdict in the case of the former NFL player accused of sex crimes by 5 separate women. Kellen Winslow II faced 12 counts, and last night a jury sent this message to the judge, indicating a verdict on 4 counts. But as you can see, the message was cryptic as to the remaining 8 counts. The judge decided to read the verdicts, which were ready. Here is our analysis of what happened. Count 4 involves Jane Doe number 2. The jury convicted Winslow of raping the woman who described herself as homeless.
They had me take my pants off and pulled me on front of the seat and, started to rape me.
During testimony, she refused to look at the defendant.
I really don't want to look at him, sir. I don't appreciate it.
Appreciate what?
That I have to look at my rapist.
However, the jury refused to agree on a special allegation that Winslow raped more than one woman. Count 6 involves Jane Doe number 3. Here, the jury convicted Winslow of exposing himself to the woman who was gardening at her home not far from Winslow's. She testified through an interpreter.
I was walking toward the orange tree, and then he was following me. And then he took his pants and then exposed his penis to me.
Evidence from a fitness app placed Winslow at the home of the accuser the day of the incident and the day before. Count 9 involves Jane Doe number 5. Here, the jury convicted Winslow of lewd conduct at a fitness center weight room.
I had to look because he's right on my face, and I noticed that he has an erected penis. Right on my face. Pointed his penis. He said, "Do you see this? Do you like it?"
But the jury acquitted Winslow of another instance of alleged lewd conduct in a gym jacuzzi.
I could not see, but I can think what he was doing. He was masturbating.
The jury deadlocked as to the remaining counts involving Jane Doe number 5, cruelty to an elder, and battery against an elder. The jury also deadlocked as to all counts involving Doe number 1, the transient who said she lied about the source of blood on her pants, and as to all counts involving Doe number 4, who said Winslow raped her 2 weeks after consensual sex back in 2003, when she was 17 and he was 19. Verdict that the jury delivered ultimately. So they delivered the first set of verdicts and then went back to deliberate some more. An hour later is when jurors announced an official deadlock last night after hinting at one while delivering the first 4 verdicts. The defense wanted the judge to declare a mistrial on the 8 remaining counts last night.
On further discussion with counsel here, as far as the defense is concerned, the jury has indicated that they are deadlocked. It is our request that you talk to the jury now and accept their finding that the jury is deadlocked today. They can't deliberate without being all together. Taking it home tonight doesn't do them any good. They've indicated that they cannot reach a verdict, that they are deadlocked. Deadlock is the word that they use. It's our request that the court can take that finding from the jury now.
The judge responded by ruling that the jury should be sent home and then brought back this morning, possibly to reach something unanimous.
Here's what I want to do. I'm going to read another jury instruction to you. There are a number of things the court can do when a jury declares that they are deadlocked. This includes giving additional instructions, clarifying previous instructions, permitting the attorneys to make additional closing arguments if there's an area of inquiry that the jury feels would be helpful, or any combination of those 3 remedies. So I want you to go home tonight. I want you to come back tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I know this is not the news you want to hear, but look, I know all 12 of you have invested a lot of time and effort in this trial. There's no question you've given up a lot to be here, and I know that. You've taken time away from your families, you've taken time away from your jobs, and I know that you all take this very seriously, and I can tell based on the length of deliberations and how well you paid attention during the course of the trial. So I'm going to send you home tonight, but I want you to think about if there's anything possible the court can do in terms of focusing an area of law that might need clarification, or if further argument from counsel might be helpful, or if you need additional instruction or read back.
There was one more issue last night. Alternate juror number 3 had an issue with deliberating juror number 12.
The trial went to jury. We were outside the courthouse out in front, and we were conversing, and I gave him my business card and said, hey, if you ever need help buying a big screen TV, I'm the guy to call. And he said, oh, I just bought one like a week ago. And I said, oh, cool, what'd you buy? And he went, and he suddenly got very, very like, oh, I said, acid, now wait a minute. My memory is so bad. Just like that, and I went, whoa. I don't know if I want this guy on a jury. I mean, it just jolted me to the court, just the way he said it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm having a senior moment. He had this real struggle in his face, and he went, my memory is so bad.
Okay. Did you have any other discussions with juror number 12 during the course of the trial, or any other time that would cause you concern about his ability to fulfill his duties as a juror?
He was as genial as anybody else, but the way he joined in conversation was a little odd because he does have a foreign accent. I can tell English is not his first language. And not per se, but in the back of my mind I kept thinking, oh, I know all these other people, they're all really cool. This one guy is kind of, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure it out.
Okay, there's that. And today the jury came back with another note announcing a continued deadlock, and so the judge declared a final mistrial. It's done this time around. But before sending the jury home, the judge asked the jury split. Here's the vote. And this is a list of only the counts where the jury was hung. The judge did not ask the jury exactly first time around which side of the split they were on. Then he went back and asked them, and they did give the split. So there you have it, folks. This jury was leaning guilty pretty much across the board, as you see on your screen right now, as to all of these counts. That's how the jury was leaning, but they were hung on all of the counts on your screen. Criminal defense attorneys Linda Kenny-Bodden and Gene Rossi are with me tonight. Gene, of course, also a former federal prosecutor. So, Linda, we've got deadlocks, we've got mixed verdicts, we've got jurors leaning towards guilty on some counts a little more so than others. What's next?
Well, it goes to show you when the prosecution goes back to their office and decides whether to try this case, it certainly helped that they were trying all of them together, because there was, there's a real split here. I mean, you have victim number 1, alleged victim number 1, Jane Doe, a 5 to 7 one way, and then you have the woman who was 17, you've got a 10-2. So the prosecution is going to decide, talk to the victims, see whether they'll testify, but they may not put them all together. But if they don't, they may not get a conviction. Okay, yeah, I mean, we have another trial coming down the road here, possibly, depending on how things go. So, Gene Rossi, anything bothering you about procedurally how this thing rolled out? You've got all these notes. One of them smells like a hung jury. Then it really is a hung jury. Then the judge sends them home, and then they're back there again. Did this bother you at all?
A little bit. I don't like the cavalier way the judge was asking for the votes, the splits on the hung counts. You don't do that in open court. You ask the foreperson to write it down on a piece of paper and then hand it to the court. I do have to comment on that alternate juror number 3. I mean, is that a guy who wants to be on the jury and deliberate, or what? I mean, that was the strangest colloquy I've ever seen with a judge and an alternate juror in my life.
So you think that the alternate was trying to rat out juror number 12 to get on the jury himself? That's an interesting theory. Gene, when he was talking, though, he's describing the facial movements, and I'm like, wait a minute, Gene Rossi does that to me every time I ask a question. So
and I did it during the 4 to 5 hour, and your control room basically was going to shut me off. But
Speaking
Anyway,
of which, we have to move along. Gene Rossi, thanks a lot for your opinions, because a guilty verdict in a California trial which lasted 5 months to the day and resulted in 22 hours of deliberation. The jury convicted Chase Merritt of murdering all 4 members of the McStay family. Prosecutors had his DNA in a couple of places inside the family's vehicle, but Merritt says that's because he and victim Joseph McStay had lunch shortly before the family disappeared. The defense found a series of unknown DNA samples inside the family's graves. They were not from the defendant or from the victims, and no one seems to know who they're from. The defense team reacted this way after the verdicts.
We're kind of shell-shocked, actually. Based on the evidence, we did not expect this.
We've been down there talking with him for the last few hours, and he is disappointed, as we are, but he's ready to continue fighting for his innocence and his freedom, and as are we.
The evidence was that there was 3 profiles that we were able to identify, our expert was able to identify, that were retrieved from the gravesite. Those are potential suspects, and since the defense is not allowed to, we're not allowed to run that through CODIS, which is the National Data Bank of DNA profiles. Only the prosecution, law enforcement can do that. So we were unable to do that. But those 3 profiles still lie with the DA's office today. So how the jury can come up with a guilty verdict in this case, knowing that there's 3 profiles from the gravesite, it just, from our standpoint, just belies logic.
That case moved into a penalty phase today to determine whether the defendant deserves to be sent to death row. Prosecutors unveiled new evidence in court today in the case of a missing Connecticut woman. Fotis Doulos and his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, pleaded not guilty to tampering with evidence in the disappearance of wife Jennifer Doulos. The prosecutor handling the case says the husband's DNA is mixed with that of his missing wife on Jennifer's kitchen faucet. Jennifer Doulos disappeared some 18 days ago. This week marks the 25th anniversary of the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman. In a new interview with the Associated Press, O.J. Simpson says life is fine. He says he plays golf almost daily and keeps in touch with his kids. Simpson was famously acquitted of stabbing his wife and her friend, but was later convicted of trying to steal back some sports memorabilia in Las Vegas years later. Simpson says he and his family do not talk about the death of his wife. And still ahead on the debrief, the death penalty trial of Timothy Jones. The mother of the children killed by their own father shares her thoughts on the death penalty. That emotional testimony is after the break. And now to a new case in Florida, which began today with opening statements. Christopher Visada faces a possible death sentence if jurors convict him and then agree as to the punishment. He's accused of murdering 20-year-old Kelly Doherty, 26-year-old Sean Henry, and 24-year-old Brandy El Salhi. Prosecutors believe Visada shot the victims at a party. Some people there say he was part of a group which showed up uninvited wearing masks. Police caught Visada in a car about a mile away from the shooting scene with a glove, a magazine, and bullets. The South Carolina jury, which convicted Timothy Jones of murdering his 5 children, is now determining his punishment. The choices are either life in prison or the death penalty. The jury found Jones guilty of punishing his son to death and then systematically killing his other kids as they found out. The mother of the children, who broke down on the stand during the previous phase of the trial, was asked whether she wanted Timothy Jones dead.
Did you love him?
I did. I did. I'd be lying if I sat here and said that everything in our marriage is bad.
Do you want Tim put to death?
I personally, myself, can't bring myself to want anybody to die. It's a really hard. I hear what my kids went through, and I'm just being honest. I hear what my kids went through and what they endured. Sorry. And as a mother, If I could personally rip his face off, I would. That's the mom in me. That's the mama bear in me wanting to just make him feel everything they felt. I don't personally feel like I have the right to put anybody's life in my hands. I don't wish that upon anybody. I don't wish the Jones family to feel what I felt losing my sons. I do not wish to. I will never have my grandbabies. I will never have those things. They'll never get to see anything more of them. I'm trying to, I guess, take a step back and trying to put myself in everybody's shoes, because it has affected a lot more than just myself. It's even affected you guys.
Speaking directly to the jury there, the defendant's father was called by the defense, but his loyalty to the prosecution was tested on cross-examination.
What was your purpose in going down there when you went and they asked you to come?
To see what was going on. I mean, why Timmy was there with no children. You know, why we didn't know where they were.
Did you want to find the babies desperately?
More than anything.
Did you do everything that law enforcement asked of you?
Yes.
Did they even have to ask you to help?
No.
The decision to help them at that time, because you wanted Timmy to tell them what happened, right?
Yes, I did.
You stand by your decision to help them.
I do.
Do you regret your decision to help them in any way?
No, I don't.
Are you grateful to those men in Mississippi for what they did?
And from South Carolina, Mr. Creech as well.
And various people have come to you since that time and asked you for your help, right?
They have.
And that includes people from the defense and from the prosecution.
Yes.
Have you ever told anybody no?
No.
Did you talk to Dr. Frierson when he was evaluating you?
Anybody want to talk to me?
And you've talked to Mr. Hubbard, people from his office on a couple of occasions?
Yes, I've met Mr. Hubbard a couple times.
Once here and once at your house, right?
Yes.
Your decision to cooperate with everybody that's asked for your help, you regret that and you stand by it?
I stand by it.
The defendant's grandmother said she absolutely did not want to see the death penalty in this case.
Do you want Tim Jr., put to death?
No, God, no. I love him. Her family's been through enough. God, I just don't think we can take anymore. This has broke us so bad. And that, I think, would just be the final nail in the coffin. I just don't think I can take anymore.
You still love Tim?
Oh, God, I love him with all my heart. I don't think when you love someone, it ever goes away.
A social worker was asked about the defendant's early years and how the defendant's mother viewed his own birth.
Within a couple of days of coming home from the hospital, she told Roberta that she wished that baby would just shut the F up. What family members noticed was that she seemed kind of hollow and empty when she was around the baby. She didn't seem to be very interested in the baby. There were times that she would put the baby in a locked room, leave the baby there screaming and crying, and wouldn't go take care of the baby Tim, and wouldn't let Roberta go take care, or Tim take care of the baby either. She refused to change his diapers at times and refused to let Roberta do that, despite the fact that he was crying. There were times that she refused to feed the baby because she said she didn't want a fat baby. There were times that she gave little Tim laxatives because she said she wanted to cleanse his soul. There were times that she would put the baby in a bathtub of icy water and then leave the baby there because she wanted him to learn to listen. And then there were other times that she would put the baby in winter clothing in the middle of a hot Chicago summer, saying that she didn't want the baby's skin to see light. So her behaviors over time became increasingly abusive and increasingly neglectful towards the baby.
So one question is whether there was a cycle here. Despite the jury's conviction without any mental health conclusion attached, the defense continued to press evidence of mental disorders in an attempt to save the life of Timothy Jones.
Mr. Jones meets the diagnostic criteria for schizophrenia, and I base that on my evaluations of him from 2014 until the present. And I do agree, we certainly know that he was using synthetic cannabis, and that can cause psychosis in somebody, and that certainly may have contributed to what I saw on September 13th, 2014. But what the issue is usually people that have substance-induced psychosis, I've treated them, I spent the last 7, 8 years doing that. They usually clear up within a month. You can bring them into the hospital, you give them medications, they clear up, and then they're no longer psychotic. You can eventually take them off their medications, and they're fine. If they use these kind of substances again, they will get sick again. But in this case, I have followed him since 2014. In my opinion, he continues to have symptoms of psychosis.
Let's go back to the all-star panel we have tonight on the debrief. So, Gene Rossi, you're a man of many opinions. What do you make of the defendant's father's display of tattoos memorializing the lives of the 5 kids who were killed in this case?
I don't know if the defense attorney made a wise decision by humiliating the father. And I'm assuming the father did not come up with this antic.
Wow.
It's an antic. And I was offended that he did that in front of the jury. All he needed to do was a simple thing. Take a photo, have him describe it, and show it to the jury. He didn't need to humiliate the father by having him take his shirt off.
Okay, so Linda, the defense's job is to mitigate in this case. And here you have even family members who lost the next generation of a family saying, we still want this guy alive. Is that effective?
It can be, because when you question the jury, you also ask them as a defense attorney, do you believe in mercy? And mercy is what they're asking here for the family, not necessarily for him, but for the grandparent, before the father, and in a way for the mother, unless the mother has somehow offended the jury that she wasn't more involved in this, her kids' lives. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I think that she was very forthright when she was on the stand. I think they're going to take her words to heart as well. So Gene Rossi, Linda Kenny-Bodden, great discussion on the debrief. We had a lot to talk about, and of course we will again tomorrow. For those of you watching the debrief, that's it for today. We appreciate you being with us. We'll be back here tomorrow with our recap of daily cases at 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.